Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to make a video about what I do. Like, what is it that I do? I know I've alluded to it before and I said that I used to work for a retail pharmacy, but some of you might be a little confused as to what it is I'm doing. So today I'm going to break it down, let you know where I work, what that means for the patients I serve, as well as my likes and dislikes of the shop. So if you like to know more about that, then just keep on watching. So hello all, I'm not going to tell you the exact company I work for because but I can tell you that I do work for an FQHC. What does that stand for? A federally qualified health center. Essentially what that is a facility that receives federal money from the government as well as grants, different things, in exchange for providing low cost-effective services for patients. So federally qualified health centers are able to provide services based on a fee sliding scale. Basically, that means depending on that patient's income, we can give them the best price possible. So that's very beneficial for those who are on a low income, those who are on a limited income. It's super beneficial for them. We're also responsible for providing a myriad of different services, from dental to health, pharmacy, OB, primary, pediatric care, you name it, our clinics do it, okay? And we're not really supposed to be called clinics, or more so health centers, but you know what I'm saying. Clinic has a bad connotation, but essentially we're just a group of health centers who are dedicated to providing affordable services for our surrounding communities. So there are different clinics, there are different health centers around the area where I live, and I work in a health center that is predominantly serving Hispanic population. So that's why many times I'm working on my Spanish. We have interpreters here, but we provide a lot of different services for them. Many of my patients are immigrants and many of them are refugees. So it makes me feel pretty fulfilled to be able to provide services to them. These patients come from completely different backgrounds. So the things that they learn in their home countries is quite different. So we spend a lot of time educating them on the basics, making sure they know how to take care of themselves, making sure... Hey, oh, sorry about that. My camera ended up dying, but the show must go on. I'm determined to finish this video and finish it today. Anywho, so I feel very fulfilled because we're giving access to healthcare to patients who really, really need it. Now, not all of the health centers in this area where I live have the same, obviously, patient backgrounds, because it just depends on the neighborhoods they're in, but essentially we provide access to care. The only caveat for performing these discounted services for patients is that we cannot accept prescriptions from outside doctors. So the patients have to be our patients. They have to see our doctors. The prescriptions can be filled in-house for a super discount rate, or they may go to other pharmacies. But unfortunately, it can't be vice versa. They can't see other doctors and we can't fill prescriptions at our pharmacy from other doctors. So that leads me to the type of pharmacy I work in. So we talked about the health center I work in, but now we're going to talk about specifically the department I work in, the pharmacy department. So we are a 340B pharmacy. What does that mean? That basically means that drug manufacturers can give us drugs for a super discounted rate. The drugs that we buy here are super affordable. That's how we're able to give patients their medications based on a fee sliding scale, as well as their insurance, for super low cost. Like here, you can get some medications for 10 cents. And then that patient only has to pay about $3 to $27 depending on their fee sliding scale, depending on their income. So that's a beautiful thing. So the caveat with that, though, is that because we're able to do it, we can't compete with retail pharmacies. So that's one of the reasons why we can't accept prescriptions from outside doctors. It's like some kind of non-compete clause that 340B pharmacies are a part of. They've signed to, they've decided to subscribe to it. So essentially, we get prescriptions only from in-house doctors. Mind you, the patients can go elsewhere if they so choose, or if the medication the doctor wants them to take is not on our formulary. Basically, there's a list of medications that we're able to buy, and many things aren't on our formulary because we would essentially go broke. So mind you, you can see how the profit margin for some things, if I get a medication for 10 cents and I'm able to sell it for $3, we are only profiting like $2.90, and we don't fill that many prescriptions. So we're not by any means a for-profit type of pharmacy. So we don't get bonuses here. We don't get a whole lot of perks. It's either payment perks. We don't get a whole lot of payment perks. So if you like work over, don't expect to get approved for a whole lot of overtime, or don't expect for that overtime to necessarily be worth it. You can, however, go ahead and get like extra PTO. So essentially, that's where I work. I work for the underserved, and in addition to giving patients their medications at discounted rates, we also have the ability to give patients flexible options for payment plans. So sometimes patients don't have the money right away, so we can put that medication or visit, whatever it is, on their bill, and they can make payments, or they can pay it at a later time. That's amazing. But with that, if patients don't keep up with their medications, that bill will get sent to collections. Some people care that it gets reported to their credit. Some people don't, because honestly, they got other things to worry about. Like I said, when you're serving the underserved, a lot of patients are strapped for cash. They're trying to figure out their next move. They're trying to get the basics down pat. You see what I'm saying? A lot of my patients, at least that's what I've seen. So now let's get into the likes and dislikes of my job. Let's hit it. Likes, I still get a pension. That is something that is very rare. I get a pension, and essentially they just automatically take 9% from my paycheck. I never see it. I never did see it. And it goes into an account. It took me a long time to find that account, and I'll explain more about that later. The second thing I like is our hours. There's no weekends, there's no holidays. We're a federal facility, so all federally recognized holidays, I don't have to come into work, which is something I never thought I'd be saying since I worked in retail since 2012. In addition to getting off for the weekends and holidays, the latest that I'll stay at work is 7 p.m., but typically the hours are 8 to 5. It's a small staff, so you get to know everyone. That's another perk. I got to know all of the pharmacy directors, and it's just nice because in retail, I feel like when you have this big corporate world, they just feel like so out of reach and out of touch with what's going on. But here, like, everybody knows what's going on. Here, directors have stepped in and worked if there's not enough people to help. So that's awesome. Like I said before, we do get a lot of like time perks. So for example, because of COVID, if anybody is sick because of COVID, or if anybody has some kind of primary exposure and you are vaccinated, you have to be vaccinated, you can get up to 14 days paid. You don't have to use your PTO. You don't have to use your sick time. That's really good. Our pay is actually pretty decent compared to retail, pharmacy, hospitals. There's a range, and all I can say is I'm getting paid more than what I was getting paid, and my increases are more than what I was getting paid. So that's beautiful. Lastly, I'm getting my student loans taken care of, and I can get up to, I just researched this because you guys know that I have a video about how I got $75,000 canceled. My student loans have dropped significantly. That was more than half of what I owe Sally Mae, Navion, whatever she's under now. That's more than half. So I'm in the process of applying for continuation. Now, I can't apply until like much later on in the year, but I saw that each year I can get up to $20,000 more dollars. So that means if I work here for like 4 more years, my student loans will be paid in full, not a dime paid by me. So that's what makes this job much more valuable than anywhere else I've worked. I'm super grateful for that. And obviously the loan repayment program is to encourage healthcare professionals to work in underserved areas because this is where healthcare is really needed. But I just thought I'd throw that out there. I know there's not always a lot of job openings, or maybe those jobs aren't the most attractive, but it's just something to think about. I had about $126,000 that I owed to Sally Mae, Navient, whoever. And to know that in addition to my salary, I'm getting my loans taken care of, it's a bonus. Now, granted, it's not guaranteed, but it is a big, huge bonus. And that's what I wanted to leave as my final and last perk. Well, I'm lying because that's not the last perk. The last perk is that because we are not very busy, I'm able to provide patient-centered care. That means the patient is at the center of the care that I give them. I'm able to really hone in, focus on it, but also we're not that busy, okay? So I've got extra time to actually organize. I've got extra time to actually think things through. I've got extra time to, if I could be 100% real, take a breather. Take a 5-minute break here and there, walk around the building. I've got time to do that. Before I did not. I was holding my bladder 5, 6, 7 hours at a time. Okay? So that is a huge perk for me. Okay, y'all. Now it's time for the things that I don't like so much about where I work. There's rare opportunities for overtime. I am an overtime kind of girl. So that kind of sucked for me. In addition to, the communication here is not the best, and it's hard to retain staff sometimes. So they don't do a good job letting you know, okay, such and such retired, such and such moved here. So you're sending emails to the wrong person the whole time. Communication is just not very good. So remember when I was talking about my likes and how we got a pension and they take 9% out of your check every month? When I first got onboarded, I didn't know that. That is something that I had to look up. I didn't even know where that money was going. I didn't know how much money I had in my pension fund. I didn't know anything. I didn't know how many years I had to work here to become vested. So you got to do a lot of research by yourself. That means you got to ask a lot of questions because the information is just so much. It's so much with HR, with unions, with different departments, because we are not just a pharmacy. So you're talking to people who are dealing with the organization as a whole. So information is just not given to you. You have to do a lot of research, which is a pet peeve of mine, but I'm the type to do the research, okay? I'm the FBI, I'm the feds, I'm gonna figure it out. But I've looked at my pension and I've also realized I don't have any rights to it essentially until I'm vested, which is after the 5-year mark. So I gotta be here at least 5 years, no matter what's going on in life. Me and Demario have talked about moving, but like I said, the value of working here is very great. Like, I'm getting my loans paid off. That is something that means a lot to me, especially since it's just been a burden thinking about how much I have to pay. So essentially, I'm rambling, but 5 years it takes for you to get vested. And then if you decide to leave, you have access to that money when you decide to retire. I'm not so sure of pensions, if you could put them in like a rollover IRA or what have you. That's what I did with my 401k. I don't know much about that. But in the future, if I do decide to leave here, I'd be able to get that money when I retire at least. So got to be here for at least 5 years. Another con is that because we do have such a small staff, if somebody calls off, it's very hard for us to find coverage. Okay, sometimes we use temp agencies. Sometimes some pharmacists got to work by themselves because typically we got about 1 to 3 technicians for every 1 pharmacist, and it depends on your volume. And some days people call off, what have you, so that's very hard. The next thing I don't like is that it's very hard to discipline your staff or to give constructive criticism because everybody is backed by a union. So let's say you tell one of your technicians, hey, I need you to do shelf maintenance once a week. But if it's not listed under their job duties, you get a lot of back and forth with the technicians because they know that they have a fight essentially. So sometimes it's hard to get just the basic things done. I've never experienced this before, especially in the retail world, but there's a lot of back and forth with some of the technicians just to do basic technician jobs. So you guys know that we're able to bill for our clinical services using a platform called Outcomes. Well, that's just one of them, but we use that. We wanted technicians to get more involved. And then all of a sudden people were saying,
well, we don't really know if that's a part of our job. We don't know if we really have to do that.
What? I've never gotten pushback over something simple like that. Like, all they had to do was put notes in patient profiles so that when you clicked on the patient profile, you say, oh, I need to talk to Mrs. Jones about her statin therapy or about her cholesterol therapy. And we're getting pushback. So you just get pushback on weird things. Y'all, I'm at a loss for words, but those are the types of things that we deal with, unfortunately. Now, in addition to issues with staffing issues in the pharmacy, there's a lot of staffing issues in other departments, which really affects us. The folks who work at the front desk, I feel like we never have enough people. And for whatever reason, the turnover rate is kind of high. I'm not sure if it's because the pay is not so high, but we don't retain employees for very long. Maybe other people find better jobs, better paying jobs, more fulfilling jobs. I'm not too sure. But it does put a strain when everybody is working with bare bones, even less than that, because right now, we used to have, prior to the pandemic, like 4 or 5 people up at the front. Now we've got 1, maybe 2. So COVID is really doing a number on us, like I'm sure it's doing for a lot of you other people who are in healthcare, or even if you're not. I know that COVID is just running rampant and it's affecting staff. So just be aware that it's hard. It's hard out here, really, wherever you work. The other dislike that I have is that it takes a long time to get hired here. So you get hired, you get your notice of acceptance, yay, but you're not going to get a start date for a long time because there's a lot of paperwork. My job has a lot of paperwork. Like, it's stressful to think about how much paperwork it is required from us. So it took me about 3.5 months to get a start date, So like, here I was at my job, so excited that I got hired on to this 340B pharmacy, and I couldn't tell anybody, I couldn't say anything because I had not gotten a start date. Like, how goofy would it have been if I got my letter of acceptance or my offer letter, quit my job, and then didn't have a job for months? Okay, it was not working. So, something to keep in mind. Another con, and this is also a con with really any job in which you're working for somebody else, there is a maximum limit that you can make. And I feel as though when I hit that limit, well, let me put it like this. I'm preparing to hit that limit. And upon hitting that limit, I'm preparing for an exit strategy. So I love pharmacy, but I don't love the fact that somebody else has control over my pay. I want to have unlimited pay. So what does that mean? I'm going to utilize my resources to find different streams of income. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to leave pharmacy as a whole. That doesn't mean anything like that. But what it does mean is that I refuse to just have somebody tell me this is the amount you can make and that's it. No. And maybe that's the millennial in me talking. You know, we do a lot, and we do a lot for ourselves, as we should, as anybody should. So that is the other dislike. In any pharmacy job, I'll tell you that no matter where you work, you can get told at any moment to move locations. That's happened to me here as well as at my previous job. That really sucks. That's just a con for pharmacy in general. That's a con for working for somebody in general. Somebody always has control over your schedule and your location, which I don't like, but that's working. You know what I'm saying? Outside of that though, y'all, I really do love my job. It's really a fulfilling job. I have changed as a person, and it sounds crazy, but I really have. I used to be very high stressed. I used to have terrible eating habits, eat right before bed. I wasn't a very pleasant person, but now I feel that it's changed, and it's changed for the better. I just smile when I think about like where I was a couple years ago and where I am now. Like, there's no chance that I would have the opportunity to do things I'm doing now. Now, I really do feel like I am working at the top of my license because we're starting to incorporate more clinical services here. We had them here, but some things happened and they kind of fell off. But now we're getting back to it, which is really exciting. And it's really exciting for me because if you didn't know, I am residency trained. I'm trained as a community pharmacist who is able to provide ambulatory care services. So that's what my background is. That's what I spent a whole, extra year and some change doing. That's what I'm really passionate about. So I'm excited to get back to that. In all, I hope this shines a light on the work that I do on a day-to-day basis, my full-time work, and I hope it also shines a light on working for public health in general. There are people that really need you. This job will be very valuable for them and for you. If you have any questions, please ask them down below. Any comments, put it down below. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.